What's up, ladies and gentlemen? James Williams, Dog Waters. I'm here, and I want to introduce Jimmie to you guys, or reintroduce Jimmie to you. If you've never seen or never had the opportunity to listen to the initial interview I did with Jimmie last year, it is one that you want to hear. Now, Jimmie was on These Woods is Haunted, one of the highest rated shows that they had, and it was a Bigfoot encounter about him and his brothers, and how Bigfoot threw a giant cinder block through their back door. One of the most vivid Bigfoot encounters descriptions that I've ever heard, and we know it's been vetted by national TV, so we know it is true. Now, what Jimmie talks about towards the end of this interview is very, very, very interesting, and it's something that I believe completely reinforces what the point I've been trying to get across to people over the past 2 years about what the purpose of this field is, and the encounters that people have, why people have the encounters that they have, and about people being broken in various different ways. I think it's real strange that most of the people who find themselves in this field, they've had trauma at a young age, when they were very little, or at some point in their life, and then they're attracted to this field. That trauma, that breaking, that hurting, that pain seems to be, pause, stop, rewind, not seems to be, is something that attracts various entities into your life. And that's something that I want to expose so people understand that don't hold on to that trauma. That trauma is not a good thing. You need to do what you got to do to get rid of that trauma, because it's hurting. It's like having a dead body inside of your drywall, and that's how a lot of people are. They have a dead body behind the walls. They can smell it, and the smell is so strong. The smell is so strong that they can taste it in the air, but they don't know how to get rid of that dead body. So, man, don't be stuffing dead bodies in your walls. Is what I'm saying to you, man. Get it out. Let's get it taken care of, and move on with your life, because that's what attracts things to you. That's why people are having these encounters. They got dead bodies in their walls, man. I don't know any other better way to put it. Get them damn dead bodies out your wall, damn it. Get them out your wall. Hurry up, get them out your wall. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a listen to the Jimmie interview. And at the end, Jimmie has a very special ask for the Dog Waters family. And I'm going to ask that you guys help these people out. It's Christmas time. You got 10, 20 bucks you can throw towards a family to help them. Do it for me. Look out for these people. You're going to notice that I'm doing it myself. I'm not going to ask you to do something that I won't do. Never will ask you to do something that I'm not willing to do. All right. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the interview.
Do things seem off? Trouble sleeping? Issues in your marriage, finances, or with extended family and friends? These are challenges that many men face, but you don't have to face them alone. The Men of Steel prayer group is here for you. We are a fellowship of individuals who share a common interest in the paranormal and cryptid fields, united in our quest for understanding the supernatural. Our goal is to educate and guide those curious or seeking insight into the supernatural, emphasizing the role of Jesus Christ as the supreme authority over the supernatural realm. Visit us at strongmenpraying.com to learn more. The Men of Steel prayer group, where faith and curiosity forge a stronger spirit.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? James Williams, Dog Waters, and I'm here on camera for once. I never really am on camera. This is like history in the making. I never got my cigar, but I'm here on camera, and I'm here with Jimmie. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me say this about Jimmie. The opportunity to spend some time with Jimmie is something that I really, really enjoy. Jimmie and I started talking like last year, but what was really interesting about me having a conversation with Jimmie was that during that time period, there were all these people who were like, Dog Waters is the worst person on the world, blah, 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 blah. And Jimmie was like, I don't care. I'm going to do an interview with you. And so I appreciate you, Jimmie, spending time with me and having an opportunity to talk to each other, because most people, when there's chaos and confusion, they run away from it. They're afraid of it. And you're just not that type of guy. For those of you who don't know, Jimmie's been on multiple TV shows with his Bigfoot encounter. I'm going to have him touch on it, and then we'll spin and talk about some other things. So welcome back, Jimmie. It's good to see you, my friend.
Man, it's been absolutely an honor to have you back. Thank you so much for having me back. It's always a pleasure being on your show.
Man, how's life been going for you since you exposed all of your encounter? How's that went? I mean, you find yourself being a celebrity at this point in time?
No, I try to actually I for the most part I try not to do um the podcasts and the shows and whatnot, just for the simple fact of um it's such a saturated market, and if I don't want to be that person that's on and everybody goes, oh, for the love of Pete, this guy is just seeking the camera, you know. I've turned down as many podcast offers as have I been on. And I felt bad about it because I like the people. It's just, and then, you know, sometimes you get a podcast that their crowd's not as friendly, and then they decide to just tear you up in the comments, and there's really nobody reining in the people. And you know, the trauma itself of having a Bigfoot fall out of a tree 5 feet from you is enough, and now you got to relive the trauma and then be ridiculed all over again for it, you know, every single time you do a show. And you know, you can only put yourself out there so many times. This is me speaking, before it just seems to be not worth it, you know what I mean? So it's better for me to pick and choose, you know, who asked me to be on, and when I uh decide, yeah, I'll come on your show because what you got going on is great, and the direction you got things going is, you know, great. You know, I don't want to go on a show that is just full of hateful people in the comment section. That doesn't do anybody any good.
Nah, and that's a real life experience for people who are eyewitnesses. They come on, they share their encounter, and then they are literally just savaged in the comments. And it's unfortunate because the way it affects the eyewitness is they never want to speak about it again. And that's one of the
Correct.
reasons why I always do my content and story form as opposed to interview form, because if I'm in interview form with a person and you start attacking, I'm going to have to say something to the point to where it's going to turn into an argument because people are just crazy. So I've always stuck with the stories because it leaves a certain amount of anonymity for the audience, for the person who had the encounter as opposed to the interview. But nonetheless, it's one of those things where that's a part of this business. And to anybody
Yeah.
listening who plans on being in this business and you plan on telling your encounter, know that you're opening yourself up to the public and be prepared to deal with the ramifications of it. And you should be wise about who you go and deal with, because there's some people who just care about the encounter. They only care about getting the encounter recorded. And once they have it recorded, to hell with you. You know what I'm saying? Run them quickly through your encounter and then we'll spin and go to the next thing. It was you
Right on.
and your brothers, right?
Correct. Yeah. I'll give a Cliff Notes version of it. My encounter was aired on the Travel Channel's These Woods Are Haunted season 2. Um, episode 7, I believe it was titled "We're Goners," and um, I was probably 7 or 8. My next oldest brother was 9 or 10. My next oldest brother was 11 or 12. We were 2 years apart. And basically, the long and the short of it is, we were chasing each other around a trailer that just got put there. Um, Prior to that, when we drove all the way across country from Illinois to North Carolina, as soon as we got out of my stepfather, he's Native American, he said, "Stay out of the woods. There's a hairy man back there." And you know, as kids, hearing the words "hairy man," you know, 40, geez, I'm 51 now, so 44 years ago, you know, it was funny to hear the word hairy man. You know, thinking, ha ha ha, you know, laugh, you know, whatever. He didn't like us much, so his attitude was, "Well, I told you, if you get eaten, you get eaten, whatever." And we were running around the woods about 3 weeks after we got there. And my mom and my stepfather were gone for this like day 3. They just left me and my brothers. They were gone. They just didn't come back. And we were chasing each other around the trailer, and we heard a scream from behind the trailer. It just sounded like a woman getting ripped in half. Just one scream, just ah! It's just terrible woman scream, and it was terrifying. And we went from chasing each other to we came together without saying a word. Just we were drawn to each other without saying a word. We kind of moved as one unit to go back and kind of investigate whatnot. About 75 feet from the back of the trailer, we walked up on a tree, and there was a crack up in the tree. And when I looked up in the tree, there was a 6 foot tall chimp in the tree, squatched down on a branch with his feet up against the trunk of the tree. It was about 15 feet up. That was the very first branch. And when we looked up, when we heard the crack and it looked down, its eyes got big and it started to stand while it was holding onto the tree. When it stood, the branch it was on broke and it dropped right there by us, 5 feet from us. We took off running. My brother Bobby beat us back to the trailer. Me and my older brother, jumped into a freezer chest. It was outside the back door. And because my brother locked us out, at 12 years old, there's no fight or flight. It's just self-preservation, but he got eaten alive by the Bigfoot community and all across the world, and all the comments and everything, because the actor that played him was probably 20, 22 years old instead of 12, like it should have been.
Right.
And so it portrayed him as being much older. But then the fact is that the little boy that played me was probably the age of my oldest brother that locked us out. And then later that night, a bigger one came back. It looked nothing like the one at the window, or the one that fell out of the tree. The one that fell out of the tree was about 6 foot tall. It was built like a swimmer. It had a face like a chimp. It had the bubbled lips. It reminded me of Caesar from Planet of the Apes. Its face was charcoal gray, the skin, and then it speckled into my flesh tone around the lips. It was just speckled into all, pink, right in here. It like freckled into one solid color right here. It followed us back. It didn't chase us. It just meandered and followed us back. Later that night, a bigger one showed up at the window when we were playing with the ghost gun. And it looked like a really, really, really old Native American combined with a caveman. It was cinnamon. It was not black like the other one. And from here to here took up the entire window of our trailer. If it was standing straight up, it was at least 8.5 feet tall. If it was standing straight up, if it wasn't hunched over, it was ginormous. And then I just happened to be from me to the front of my windshield on my golf cart, which is 5 feet away from the window when the light went in its eyes. I jumped over the bed. By the time my feet hit a cinder block that the back door steps were made out of, cinder blocks was thrown through our back door. And then we waited for mom and dad to get home, my mom and stepdad to get home, pleading our case because I had a very, very rough childhood, I guess. Very abusive, very neglectful, very I was told by most of my siblings, cousins and whatnot, that we don't know how you guys lived. We were punching bags, we were stress reliefs, we were slaves, we were whatever you wanted to call it, to make my mom feel better. If it meant, beating us with a board because she stubbed her toe, whatever. That was my life growing up. And the real monster just pulled up in the drive when we heard the truck pull up, because if we knew that she seen that back door and thought we did it, we didn't think we were going to live through the night. And we rushed the door and told mom and my stepdad the hairy man tried to break through the back door, and they had a big old knockdown drag out because my stepfather never mentioned a word about a hairy man to my mom. And then it was this big old fight in the kitchen, punching and everything between the two of them. And later that night, we packed up all of our clothes in garbage bags and drove back to Illinois in the back of El Camino after 3 weeks of living there.
Yeah, man. The very first time, and ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, the interview was there. You need to go listen to the interview as he details it step by step as to what he encountered. This is one of the most terrifying things that I've ever heard. I mean, it really is truly one of the most terrifying encounters I've ever heard. And it's also indicative of what I've been telling people about abusive households and some of the things that coincide with the things that go on inside of your household and how they relate to encounters that people have. Most creators don't touch on that. They only care about the encounter itself, but they won't go into how the background of the individual who had the encounter leads into these type of encounters. So, for example, if they weren't home alone, I guarantee you they wouldn't experience that the same way they did. There was a very There's a reason why it happened when nobody else was there, because those things have been watching them. All right, Jimmy, with that being said, you wanted to share something else with everybody, and I'm excited to hear about this other encounter that you have. And before you start, let me say this, ladies and gentlemen. The men go through things in life, and the way that we learn from each other is by learning from mistakes and experiences that others have had. In this field, that's kind of shortchanged because everybody focuses on a monster, right? And so the focus is on a monster that most people will never see. They'll never experience it. They'll never encounter it. But the focus is on a monster and not the individual. But when you start to focus on the individuals, you grow as a human being because you learn so much from talking to people. And this is what I like about being in this field. And the focus of the Dark Waters channel is not just a monster. It's about the person. And so I'm interested in finding out what else Jimmy wants to talk to us about. So walk me through this other encounter, Jimmy.
Well, we're talking about my spiritual experience. Yeah. So in the early 90s, I'm from Illinois. I moved to Florida. This is going to be a lot of personal stuff, but it's all relative, and it's all important to lead up to what happened to me. I had gotten married, fell in love with the, thought was the love of my life, and we got pregnant. I was a strong believer of never get married just because you get pregnant. You get married for the wrong reasons. Never do it. I preached to all my friends. They didn't listen. Their relationships went to crap. And, we got pregnant. I was absolutely fine with that. She hit me with marry me or I'm going to have an abortion. And I hated her, but there was no way I was going to have an abortion. I had dreams about what my son looked like before he probably even had a heartbeat. And those dreams came true. He came out looking exactly what I had been. In fact, all of my children did, except my daughter. And I think there's a reason for that. And so I hated her for it. She tried to make up for it, but I hated her for making me do something that was just against my belief. But I did it for my son. Well, my son, Zach, he fell asleep on my chest every night for the first 18 months. And every night, that's how I fell asleep. Well, when we got separated, she had him and I didn't. And it caused me to have a sleeping disorder. And it hit hard. And when we separated, she moved to San Diego and I went back home. And, she wasn't supposed to go to San Diego. She was supposed to go to Pennsylvania and go to college there. That's why I decided to go back home to Illinois. It's a lot closer, Illinois to Pennsylvania, than it is Florida to Pennsylvania. It made more sense, just logistically. And plus, I had nobody down here in Florida. All my family and friends are back in Illinois. It just made sense. So when I got back to Illinois, she called me from San Diego. And that changed everything. Big fight about, wait, how can you keep my son from me? Blah, blah, blah. You can't, I'll never get to see him, and words were said, and people say things out of anger. She was trying to manipulate me, and just the words came out of my mouth. Look, if you try to keep me from my son, I'm going to get him and you'll never see him again. And you say dumb things, you just, the lack of maturity and age and whatnot played into it. There's no excuse for it, but when you're 23, you don't really think a whole lot through before you talk. And so he was born January 15th, 1995. And since then, I've seen him 3 times. She kept him from me. We had mediations where I agreed to do everything she required from me, even though it was impossible. And the mediator said, "You'll never be able to do that." I said that I would do it. And then she would end the mediation with, Well, even if you do, I'm still not sure that I'll agree to sign anything to let you have actual visitation rights in writing. So this pain that I had from being away from my son, um, I was the one that taught him how to walk. I had changed his diaper. She had never changed a diaper in her life. I had a younger sister that had 4 kids by the time she was 18. She had twins when she was 14. I had changed thousands of diapers before I had my own child. So I had the experience, I had the knowledge, I had the patience. Um, and it got to be too painful. It wasn't just an emotional pain. I couldn't sleep. My heart was hurting. And I didn't know how much more I could handle this because every day that went on was another day away from my son, another day of feeling the same thing, another day of trying to act like everything is fine, another day where I had no control of the outcome of anything that had to do with the most important thing in my life. So at this time in 1999, I was working at a tire factory called Bridgestone Firestone in Bloomington, Illinois. And I worked in the prep booth, the North prep booth. And when in the prep booth, I just have to explain it so people understand the process because there's a time lapse. If you take a tire when it's raw before it's pressed, it's in the shape of a round trash can. It looks like a barrel. When you put it in the press, it pushes the sidewalls together, and the sides actually come out and make the tire. So
Okay.
you got the sidewalls where the rims go, and it presses the sides out. And so I have to drill 100 holes in the sidewall on each sidewall because when you press it, if trapped air gets trapped, it's going to make the thing wobble and it allows the air to escape once it gets pressed. So I just stabbed right through these things. I was breaking records on my 9th day there at Bridgestone Firestone. It was a union job, and I was told, if you want to keep this job, you got to bust your butt. I wanted that job. It was the best money I'd ever made. And so my 9th day there, I was breaking records at a 2-man job. My 13th day there, I was training people. So within 3 weeks, I didn't have to wait 90 days. They moved me to full time. So I was crushing it and just, stabbing this tire, a drill bit with an ice pick on the tip of it. I'm just crushing it. It takes me no time to get through these things. I was working at Firestone, and every night I told myself, this is the night. This is the night I'm going to go home. I'm going to swallow those pills. I'm going to drink everything I got, and I'm just going to finally get some sleep till I don't have to feel this anymore. Every night I said this. Every night I said this. But I also worked at an ag chemical warehouse, and there was a cat barely weaned in our heated warehouse, and he was batting around a half-dying mouse that had eaten rat poison. He was going to eat it, and I couldn't let that happen. So I ended up basically taking this kitten home, and I had him for 2 or 3 weeks. I just kept calling him Kitty until a name came to me, and Kitty was the name that stuck. So every night I'd come home from work, and I worked the D shift. So Monday, Tuesday, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Then the next week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I had off. And Wednesday, Thursday, I worked 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. D shift, dog shift. And so one week I worked 60 hours. One week I basically worked 24. But they would roll over 20 hours and give it to you. But every night I'd come home contemplating it every night. Said, this is the night, this is the night. And I would come home, and as soon as I'd walk in the door, my cat would do some weird, cute little cat type of prance and just bow up on me like, let's do this. And it would make me smile. And it gave me a reason to smile when I never thought I could. And All I ever did when I wasn't working was watch movies. I never left. I never went out. I had friends and family, but it didn't matter to me. Um, the pain was too much, and all I did was drowned myself in watching movies, movies. From the time, if there was a second I was awake and I wasn't work, I was just watching movies at home, isolated and watching movies at home. That's it. And this one night, um, I had made up my mind. Kitty's full grown now, and um, this is it. I can't do this anymore. And the physical pain, my heart was hurting. So I made that decision that day on the way to work that I'm finally going to get some sleep when I get home after work. And we was in the break room during lunch, and I was right across the North Prep booth is the tread station. And his name was Brian, not Mike. Black guy, super sweet, super cool. And he knew my situation. He seen my pain. He tried to comfort me as much as he could without it being awkward. Guys, being guys. And I already made up my mind, and it was at lunch on our way back. Lunch for me was like, I think, midnight. And on our way back to the prep station, I made this comment. Man, I should have went to frickin' college because this job sucks, but the money's too good. He's like, yeah, it's good money. I'm like, I ain't gonna be doing it much longer. I already made up my mind. I told him I wasn't gonna be doing it much longer, and he thought that was kind of odd because he knew my situation. So I walked up to my tires, 4 tires hanging on a rack on this side, and the other 4 hanging on a rack this side. And I grabbed my drill and I stabbed that tire just one time, and everything went black. Everything went black, and everything after that was in the form of a movie. I'm sitting in a movie theater. Everything went black. I'm sitting in a movie theater. I'm the only one there. It's a black screen. And if you and everybody that's listening just close your eyes and picture how the rest of this plays out, because this is how it played out for me. On the screen, a white G faded in. Right below it, a white O faded in. And then right below it, a white D faded in. And this is all playing out in movie form. The G faded into government. The O faded into organized. And the D faded into discipline. And that entire phrase melted away to smoke. And it was like, I'm in next scene. I'm in college. I'm trying to figure out a way to get this last easy credit. And I chose some course on religion. And I figured it was just going to be a breeze, a blow through, a whatever. I'm late getting to class because it's my first day. And I walk in, and the professor guy, he's teaching, wasn't too happy about me being late and kind of grills me for it or whatever. And I'm kind of a smart aleck. I like to make jokes. And they start talking about giving money to God and how much percentage you should give, and me being the smart aleck I am, I made the comment, how are we going to give it to him? I mean, are we going to FedEx it to him? Is this going to be a money order? How? And he didn't like that comment. I was in that class 20 minutes and I got kicked out of college. I kicked out of college over a joke that I had made. And anything religious based, um, a lot of things religious based are controversial. And so it kind of hit the local news and they made a big deal about it because of religion. You got kicked out of, separate church and state and blah, blah, blah. I didn't care. I was just trying to get credit. And I'm on local TV shows, and the next thing you know, I get invited to be on Jay Leno. And this is all still movie form. This is everything going on. Jay Leno invites me on, and we start talking about it and yucking it up. And then he started asking me what my personal views were, and I was like, I don't know. I've never thought about it much. What if God was just made up? What if God was way back in the day? Whatever the king said, the peasants believed, and the peasants were rioting, and the king said, "Tell them if they don't just calm down and relax, that they'll burn an eternal fiery death." And it worked. But that worked here. Well, it spread to the next kingdom, and it spread to the next kingdom, and it spread to the next kingdom like wildfire. And what if that's how religion really started? I said, I mean, it's all just government organized discipline. Wild dogs have a organized government. Ants, birds, lions, whatever. What if it was just government organized discipline, and it all led us to be a foul? And the audience was aghast, and not because of what I said, but it was like a light that went off for them. So it wasn't shortly after that, because of what I said, the world really did start going to hell. When I was on the show, I had mentioned, if there was no religion, people didn't have an incentive to do the right thing, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and love each other, and respect each other, we'd just be full of rapists and murderers, just like we were when the world got flooded in the first place. And that's what started happening. I had paparazzi following me around with cameras. I couldn't go anywhere. So whatever I did, I was on the news in every country. And it was a terrible world disaster movie. There were tsunamis, there were earthquakes, there were hurricanes, there were volcanoes, there were fires. It was really a crap storm. And it was because of what I said. And I was just throwing it out there. And I walked out of my store. I live in the town of Atlanta, Illinois, 1,300 people at the time. And I walked out of my store and I could see tornadoes. And they were barreling in. As soon as I walked out, I could see the tornadoes. There's a paparazzi guy with the camera over here. There's a paparazzi guy with the camera over here. And I looked at the camera, and then I looked up. And I said, you want everybody to believe. The whole world's watching. Prove it. And everything went away. It just dissipated. And when I went prove it, I was frozen with my arms out. And I lifted up. And as I was rising, and the cameras were on me, this thunderous, it sounded like if James Earl Jones said believe from the sky. It was just one word, but it sounded like thunder. And because I was being filmed, and this is still all in movie form, mind you, because I was being filmed by these guys with the cameras, when he said believe and it sounded like thunder, it panned to Asia, where people are in the streets watching the big Tron TV thing in their streets, and they heard believe in their language. It panned to an Arab country where they're in the shack with their TV and their antennas up. They heard believe in their language. It panned to other countries, and they all heard the word believe in their language. And all together, it just sounded like thunder. And when when the lights came back on, I was sitting there frozen and I was bawling. I was uncontrollably crying. And I didn't know why, but I couldn't move. It felt like somebody took a bucket of warm water and dumped it on top of my head. And I could not move until it went from the top and it got down to my feet. I couldn't move. And when the sensation went away to my feet, I'm still stuck in this position. And I look over and Brian, and he looks at me and he's like, dude. And I gesture like I don't know what's going on. How long have I been like this? He said, you just went over there and stabbed the tire and started crying. And I don't understand why that happened to me. There's so many more people deserving of it. But I went home and hugged my cat. I locked myself in my house for about 3 days. I didn't watch a TV. I didn't. I felt like the wrong person got the message. You know, why was I so deserving of what had happened?
Let me say this to you. Wow. First of all, wow, freaking wow. What you experience is being called slain in the spirit, and it's when you're literally slain. It's like you're taken from out of your body and brought somewhere else. And the simple fact that you're thinking that you don't deserve it, God loves each and every one of his sons and daughters that way. That's the most amazing thing about him. I call him daddy. That's the most amazing thing about daddy. We come to the realization that no, we don't deserve it. And we as individuals, we're not worthy of it. But he loves us that much that he will move that length to save us. So you're here today because he intervened, because if not, you would have done it. And that was his way of intervening in your life. And it explains a whole hell of a lot about you, Jimmy. It explains why, to me, explains why you had the encounter. It explains why you ended up where you have an opportunity to have influence. It explains some of the other things that have went on in your life that we've talked about personally. It explains a whole lot. But no, that's how he loves each and every one of us. And people have heard my story of when I was suicidal, what he did for me. And there's something about that moment when you're going to make that decision to where he says, okay, you want to make this decision. Let me give you the option to understand that I'm really real. And he shows himself. He completely reveals himself. And it's in different ways for different people, but it's the perfect way for that individual. You see what I'm saying? So it was the perfect way for you to get the message. There's no way you don't get that damn message. You know what I'm saying? You got the message and you didn't do it. And your life is better and the world is going to be better for you getting that message. I promise you the world is going to be better for you getting that message. The simple fact that, huh?
I was just going to say, go ahead. I'll let you finish because I can come back to it.
Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Well, so um, my cat Kitty became a huge part of my life, and I didn't realize it. You know, sometimes you don't realize things until it's too late, right? Um, Kitty, Kitty stopped me 50 times from committing suicide. Um, Kitty, I became so close to that cat afterwards because I felt after that like he was there for a purpose. Um, and I never put much thought. I tried to do the religious thing. I tried to go to church when I was a kid, but I was baptized as a kid. You know, I learned one Bible verse. And they made me learn it and memorize it before I. That's another thing. My memory's terrible, but I remember that verse. They made me memorize John 3:16 before I got baptized, and um, I got baptized. My life got worse. The beatings got worse. The neglect, the starvation, the abuse, it got worse. And I thought I did something wrong. So a year later, I wanted baptized again. And it didn't get any better. It got worse and it got worse. And I walked away from something that I put my all into when I was younger. But Kitty, so I wasn't even spiritual. I didn't care one way or another. I know that I prayed for things before, but it was never for me. It was pray to protect my mom. My stepmother was more of a mom than my birth mother, and pray to protect my father. Anything that I couldn't get with my own two hands, I didn't deserve or need. So I never, yeah, okay, okay. I probably prayed for the lottery, you know, a few times. You know what I mean? That's kind of a given, but I never
Right.
prayed, you know. Um, I didn't pray for me because I've felt for the longest time my prayers weren't worthy. They were never answered. And Kitty, so I got remarried. I got two boys. And at the time when we moved from Illinois to Georgia, my wife and I worked our faces off. And she excelled at State Farm. I excelled. She every time she got a degree, her income doubled. Did she get her master's and her bachelor's, and it would double and then it would triple. You know, everything was going great for us. We moved to Georgia, got a dream home, something we never thought we would get. 4-story house, 5,000 square feet on a lake, only access to it. Um, Never thought we'd ever have a house like that, but we worked our faces off for it. And Kitty was with us still. We had all this. And Kitty died when we were in Georgia. And he couldn't walk, he couldn't eat anything. And so I had took him myself to the vet to be with him, to have the humane thing done. And they gave him the first shot and his eyes dilated. And they gave him the second shot. And when his heart stopped, that whole, you know, before you die, your life flashes in front of you. But when he died, my life flashed in front of me, because it dawned on me that second, because of him keeping me sane, I have a beautiful wife, amazing kids, great life, financially stable, and I never once thought to even think, Kitty. And I was beat up, man. I didn't know how to leave the vet without him. I didn't know what to do. I came home and I cried like I've never cried. And it was that night that I found out that there is something after death. Because if anybody's ever owned a cat, or you're a cat person, and they get up around your ears and they start purring, and you can feel that vibration in your ear, and it gives you that weird chill feeling, the cats do. I'm in my bed bawling. My wife's bawling that night, but I'm stupid bawling, telling her, everything we got. I'm not even thinking. I'm a mess. The loudest purr I've ever heard in my ear. It made me gasp. I don't even like saying the word. It just sounds so cheesy to say. It made me sit up and gasp. I felt him. I heard him purr like a freaking lion in my ear. I sat up and I was like, and I instantly, the pain of not considering what I had a lot to do with the cat that kept me sane, was gone. I was mourning my cat, but the pain was gone. It would never happen again. But there is something after we die, because again, my cat helped me with my sanity 5 hours after he died.
Man, that's an amazing encounter, man. That's an absolutely, wow, mind-blowing encounter. It truly, truly is. And if there's anything I would say, and it's that what I've come to learn, this is just me as a man speaking. What I've come to learn is that God meets us where he wants to and how he wants to. And he uses whatever he wants to, whenever he wants to get a message across to you. And I found that as I matured, he's met me in various different ways with people, things, places, but it all got me to the point to where he wanted me to be. And in my case, it was, raging waves that kept me alive, wind blowing reeds over, bending them, that kept me alive, trees breaking that kept me alive, because I didn't understand how to communicate with him at that point in time. So he communicated to me his love through what he had around me. And it sounds like to me, that's what happened to you. And that's a beautiful thing, man. And I'm happy that you have the family that you have. I'm happy that you're still here. And I'm thankful that the Lord saved you the way he did. And I'm thankful for Kitty for being there. He's the Lord of spirits. He can use anything he wants to change your life at any point in time. And unfortunately, people don't understand that. They don't understand that love. They understand the pain and the hurt, but they don't truly understand the love that's there. We're almost out of time. There was something else you wanted to talk about with a family friend that's going on with them. Talk to me a little bit about that so I can see what I can do to help.
Yeah, I got a buddy. He's been my best friend of about 30 years. Bandmate, teammate, researcher. His name's Bobby White. He's one of the hardest working people that I know. His wife, she's had some hard times with some issues. She's got some kind of bone disease or disorder. I don't know if it's osteoporosis or I don't know what it's called, but it didn't help when she fell off her horse and broke her back. That's when things kind of started to go downhill. He just bought 10 acres, built a brand new house on it. He was at the stage of his life where he wanted to be. But with all these surgeries that his wife has had, his entire life savings is gone. His savings account is drained. And now he's saving what little he can between paychecks to pay for surgery that's scheduled for Friday. And she's already had one or two surgeries on that hand. And if this surgery doesn't get done, she's probably going to lose full function of that hand. And they started a GoFundMe page. And at the last I checked, they were like at 1,200 and something, and their goal was 5,000 for Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I singer songwriter. I've written a children's book. I've had no success with reaching out to people on Facebook, and no success reaching out to people in inner circles with any of that. People just don't seem to want to help in that way, probably because it's more of an accomplishment, not a need. But Bobby and Lori, they're great people. And like I said, Bobby's the hardest working person. He's never asked for help that I can ever remember. He's like me. If he can't get it with these two hands, he can't get it. And they're in a financial mess, and he's never, ever asked me for help, even though he knows I'd be there. But he reached out to me when I reached out to you just 5 minutes before I reached out to you. He reached out to me, and I'm like, I'll do everything I can, whatever I can, however I can. And that's where we're at. We need help. So they continue living their life. She can get the surgery that she needs, and hopefully relieve a little bit of this ongoing financial burden that they've had because of her medical issues.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is what I want you to do. I want you to send me that link. I'm gonna post it on this video. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to me. We're in the Christmas season, it's the giving season, and take an opportunity to help these people out. I'm gonna go ahead and give $150 to them now. And if you break it up, and it'll probably be 20, 30,000 people hear this easily. That's $100. I mean, that's $50 from 100 people will get the job done to help them out. But anything you guys can do, ladies and gentlemen, to help, do it. I'm not one of those guys that asks for super chats. You never see me doing any of that. I barely even sell my website anymore because God blesses me in so many different ways. So if you can help. And I'll post a link in the description. Now, prior to me posting the link, I'm going to go through and vet everything myself. So you ain't got to worry about nobody beating you out the money. But I'm going to post it. And then if you can support. You're spending money anyway. So if you got $50, give $50. If you got $20, give $20. Whatever you can give to help, go ahead and do it and help. And Jimmy, I'm gonna ask that you email that to me as soon as we get off the line. Is there anything else you want to share with us before I let you go? Because we got another interview I'm button up on in probably about 10 minutos.
No. Again, the hardest part of that encounter that happened to me was, one, I didn't feel like I deserved it, but two, the sensation of the warmth that started here,
Mm-hmm.
and it went all the way down and to my feet, like into the ground, the paralyzation, the knowing it's happened, but couldn't do anything about it, being frozen. It was really, I don't know if I was scared about what had happened, because again, in this time frame, all that happened in that time frame. I went from this to bawling, and seeing all that in that amount of time. And when I explained it to a friend of mine, he's a preacher. His name's Abel. He does a Latino online service, and speaks Spanish, and he speaks in tongue. And I watch him all the time. I can't understand a lick of it, but I can kind of feel a bit of it, When I explained to him about what had happened, he's like, I've had that. He struggled with drugs and selling drugs, and the lifestyle of drugs, and his daughter dying at a young age, and that feeling, that washed over feeling that he said you were touched by God, is what turned him around. He's like, no way in a million years did I think I'd be a preacher, but now I can't think of doing anything else. And then when I explained to him about suicide, only one other time did I have that feeling. And it was when I went to Clearwater, and we were in a condo, and we're like 15 floors up, and the view was great in the living room. But then you walk over here and go to the bedroom and go out on the balcony. Every time I broke that threshold to go on the balcony, something heavy was telling me to jump, but I didn't want to jump. I would come back in, and that heaviness would go away. I would go around the wall and go into the living room and go out on the balcony. It was not there on that balcony. I could see the balcony over here in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
But I went back out on this balcony 2 or 3 times, and it was overwhelming. Jump. But I didn't want to jump. It was overwhelming to jump. And I shut the door, and I told my wife, and she's like, never go in this room again. Stay out of that room. And I didn't know any about any of the spiritual stuff. And you know, Abel had mentioned, he's like, you had a suicide, what do you call it? A
Suicidal spirit, the spirit of suicide.
Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he said you had a suicidal spirit, I think is what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, and it was probably madder than you can believe that you overcome it without praying to God, without saying the word of Jesus. I didn't want to jump, but the feeling of doing it was overwhelming. It wasn't like that in the other balcony. It was only in that spot. It didn't make any sense. So I've dealt with that. But as far as, I don't know, when people ask me if I'm spiritual, I say no, but I don't know if that's the case, or if I just, am I, with what happened to me? Am I spiritual, or am I still trying to only get what I can provide and need with these 2 hands?
Well, we're all spiritual. That's the thing that people don't get. We're all spiritual. We're all spirits in a human body experiencing life. So in essence, we are nothing more than spirits. So based on the law of territory in the Bible, no spirit can function on this planet, in this realm, without a body, right? And so if you understand the law of territory, when God made man and woman, he made Adam and Eve, he made a spirit for them first, then he made a body, he put those spirits inside of a body. We're all spiritual at our core, because we are spirits that are experiencing life in this realm, right? And so you are spiritual. The essence of everything that you deal with is spiritual. And what you've been experiencing your whole life is spiritual warfare. And I'll say this to you, the level of spiritual warfare that you've experienced is always complementary to the level of what you're supposed to be doing. So the simple fact that you've experienced things in this nature at this strength means that there's something phenomenal that you're supposed to be doing and that you should do. And that's why you're getting fought like this. Like when the spirit of suicide came at me, it was trying to kill me before we got to this moment and this time where I came to the knowledge of God, who I can help people and bring people to him. But it was like, oh no, because nothing's hidden in the spirit realm. All things are revealed there. It would say, oh no, we can't let this guy get to this age at this time where he can do this thing, because it's going to be a problem. So they've been pursuing you for a very long time. And I'll say this to you. Anytime that tries to rear its head and those thoughts start coming in your mind, it's real easy. You know what? You know it's not your thoughts because you've experienced it. You say, listen, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. Leave me alone. And watch, boop, gone. Just like that. I'll give you another suggestion that will help you tremendously. And I've been trying to explain this to people, and I'll be doing a deep dive on it. The simple fact that you dedicate a place in your home to God, I call it an altar to God. Like behind me, if I move, you'll see there's a Bible there. There's a little scripture on a stone. There's anointing oil there. In my house, there's 2 altars. Here in this office, there's an altar. And what ends up happening is when you give space to him in your life and you say, okay, God, I welcome you in, and I build a space for you, an altar. An altar is a landing strip where spirits land. That's why you see in witchcraft, people have altars with candles and all the rest of the stuff. If you read throughout the whole Old Testament, the Bible, it's full of people talking about altars. Well, when you design and you build one of them and dedicate a space for him in your house, then you're saying, okay, I welcome you in. And that altar that you tend to by praying, fasting, just going into the room and talking, like if you're feeling down like today, I went in the room and I got on my face and said, Pops, this is bothering me. This is bothering me. This is bothering me. What do you want me to do? How do I deal with this? Take this from me. Boop, gone. No, not even a thought of it. Get up, come out, and go on about my business. As you do that, there's his presence is there and it fights all that foolishness. Like there's family members that come to my house that are in heated arguments before they leave their house. When they walk into my door, the argument stops like that. And they'd be like, man, they don't want to leave. They're like, man, it's so peaceful here. You know, we want to hang out, stay as long as you want. But it's the environment that's controlled because God is there and he is peace. So there's peace there. And so you control that environment by inviting him in. You do that, watch how the sleep changes, any arguments, all that stuff just goes away because in his presence, you can't have all that foolishness. And he gonna sit there and say, okay, something's causing them to argue and fight. Let me hammer this out, work it out. Oh, something's affecting his sleep. Let me hammer that out. And then as you do it more and more, and as it becomes more powerful, it's called servicing in the altar. As you service your altar of God even more and more by praying, fasting, singing, then it supercharges it to where you get to the point to where with me, like crazy stuff happens in my house. I mean, insane stuff happens where I'm sitting there chilling, watching TV, and you'll see something move, and I'll be like, what was that? It ain't nothing bad, but there's things in our house protecting us. And people have witnessed it because they've tried to use sorcery and witchcraft, and they say, well, oh, you know, we did this and this happened. No, you're not fighting me. You're fighting God because you're trying to hurt one of his sons. And so that's my suggestion to you, bro. Do that and watch how things start to change because he has a very, very powerful way he wants to use you. And you've experienced it. It's just all the pieces to the puzzle haven't been put together. Once those pieces to the puzzle connect, bro, you're going to be amazed. I mean, you're going to be absolutely amazed at what happens in your life. It's going to be phenomenal. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been my friend Jimmy Barr. We spent some time hanging out with him. We got another interview we got to knock out in 7 minutes. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy, I want to thank you. Tell people if they want to reach out to you, where can they find some of the information on you? I don't know if you're really doing a whole bunch public. You may just be on the old shows. How do they get in contact with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Well, I mean,
what about the books?
They can always, well, my daughter, Carly, she's 4 and she's autistic. And every time I think about her, it just makes me smile. And one day at work, I was thinking about her, and this stupid, ridiculous idea of you should write a children's book came to mind. And my grammar's atrocious, but I finished it that day, got it published. It's at a couple of the Barnes and Noble stores. It's online at Barnes and Noble. It's online at Amazon. Her name is Carly, and the title of the book is called Carly the Princess Dragon, because I can't write about bunnies and puppy dogs. Dragons are cool, so I had to make it about dragons. But it's basically about a baby dragon's first day and her adventures along the way, type of thing. So I mean, you know, they can always for the princess in your life, you know, you got a daughter, a granddaughter, a daycare, you know, if you children's hospital, if you worked at a pediatrician's, you know, office, you know, this kind of book would be great for anywhere. You know, Christmas is coming up, may not get to you by then because it's coming up really quick, but there's that. You know, I've got some songs out from, but you know, I don't ever really promote that stuff. You know, I don't really ever promote me or anything I do. I always feel like that somebody else should be promoting me, not me, because it feels weird to me. I've never gotten that down yet. You know, the one time I tried to ask somebody and tell somebody about my stuff, they called me conceited, and
really?
Yes, that struck a chord. And I was like, no, I was just really excited about one of my songs won a World Songwriting Award. And just wanted to know if you wanted to listen to it and check it out, you know, because I was proud. You know, 39,000 songs were submitted, and my song was nominated and won an award. I mean, it's, you know, it's not MTV Awards. It's a World's Independent Artist Award, you know, World Songwriting Award. But it struck a chord with me. Man, am I really coming off conceited? I'm not very good at this. So I just stopped, you know. I've got 3 songs that are in the ranking. I've almost finished actually because of my religious experience, my spiritual experience, I started writing a Christian song called "You Can," and I think it's going to be good when it's done. But it's just a matter of finishing everything with the time I have. One autistic child in the house. She's 4, got a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old. There's not a whole lot of free time.
Right.
It's not.
Right. Trust me, I know. Well, I'll tell you what, reject whatever that person told you and start talking about yourself. You're a phenomenal guy, really cool, down-to-earth guy. And that's just a way of blocking your blessing, man. Talk about what you've been doing, promote yourself, put it out there. People gonna always have something negative to say, bro. If you ever read my comment section, you lose your mind. Because I read the comment and be like, oh, this person said this, banned. Because people, I mean, unless they really know you, bro, I mean, it's preconceived notion. So if they don't know you, then it's just what most of the time is them projecting what they believe about themselves onto you. And so I just say, okay, you can project whatever you want. Banned, blocked, banned. I got like 40,000 people blocked, bro. It's ridiculous. I don't care. I mean, I really don't. I'm secure in my identity. I know who I am, and I know the person that I am. And that's where we have to, in order to be successful, that's where we have to rest in. I know who I am as a person. All right, brother Jimmy, it's great talking to you, my friend, man. We'll get back together soon, bro. We'll get back together soon, but I need you to send me the link. You got to send me the link.
Okay.
All right, brother. Good talking to you.
Appreciate it.